This model is based on the saltwater intrusion, and the saltwater intrusion is simply a process whereby the seawater moves from the oceans to the freshwater aquifers underground. Now let's get started with the three levels of the saltwater intrusion. So we have the lateral encroachment. Okay, we have the vertical upward flow followed by the vertical downward flow. Now, out of the three, okay, the vertical encroachment is the most common one, and here the seawater moves horizontally from the ocean to the freshwater aquifers. Now, the reason why this happens is because of the overpumping of the groundwater. Now, once people start to misuse and overpump, the pressure here starts to decrease, which forces the salt water to move further inland. Moving on to the vertical upward flow. For this one, the salt water from the saltwater zone starts to move up again to the freshwater ecosystem. Now if you look at the freshwater aquifer, below that we have a lighter region indicates we have freshwater, but below that we have a layer of salt water. Now everything sets as a balance. Now, again, if you look at the issue of over-pumping groundwater, it disturbs the balance, and that's how the water starts to move up. The third one is the vertical downward flow. Now, for this one, the salt water or the seawater goes to the freshwater ecosystem from the upper surface of the land. Now, what causes this to happen is the storms, the floods, and the sea level rise. These things, once it goes on the land, the soil absorbs and then it goes again in the ground and contaminates the freshwater ecosystem. Moving on to the sea level rise and the tidal influence. So sea level rise is just the increase in the average height of the ocean surface. Now this is a clear result of the global warming, whereby the ice and the glaciers melts, which causes this to happen. If we compare the two here, for this one the water is not closer to the shore, but on this side is an evidence that the salt water is moving further inland, and there will be a time when it will be covering most of the land surface. Another most issue that is going to happen is the tidal influence. Once we have the high tides, the king tide will usually force, okay, it will have more pressure and will push more salt water inland, okay? And it will again going to affect the freshwater rivers, the drains and the farms. Now talking about the farms, as you can see, we have two farms. One is a healthy farm, whereby we have good plants. We have healthy soil which has low salinity, and there's a good forest, and the freshwater ecosystem is available. If we look at the overall thing, the farmer at the end is happy because he gets high yield. If we compare to the farm that has been affected by the saltwater intrusion, it is clearly seen, these observations is seen, which includes the cracking of the soil. We have seen the salt deposits. Even if we talk about the plants starts to wilt because of the high concentration of the salt, and then it's going to overall affect the farmers. The farmers are the one who really works hard, and at the end, because of these natural factors, the production of food is reduced. Moving on to the biodiversity, we have a freshwater river, and as you can see, because of the high tide, it has flushed the water in, and since it's a freshwater fish, it is very difficult for them to adjust the new concentration gradient. Therefore, the fish population will also decline. Now, this is also interconnected with the things nearby, which includes the plants. Now, these plants are also getting weaker, but here the plants has wilted off and died because the roots absorb salt water and it dies. If you look at the overall ecosystem, even the organisms like birds are also getting affected. Okay, and there's some of them also rely on the fish species for food. So this is all about the biodiversity. Moving on to the infrastructure. So this is where we talk about the pipes. Okay. So what happens? We have the pipe systems all arranged under soil. This also goes to the house. Now, if there are chances of saltwater intrusion, now what happens is that the salt can also get deposited in the pipes and it will result in rusting and later it will also leak. If the same tap is connected to the tank, it is going to do the same thing where the water stored will rust, okay, the tins nearby will rust and it will start to leak. And the third one under infrastructure is talking about the concrete house. Sometimes even with the soil, the concrete house gets cracked. So it is also one of the minor effects of saltwater intrusion. So overall, this is the model that has been created on the saltwater intrusion. Thank you.